Imagine for a second that every single dog on this planet suddenly vanished. The silence would be deafening. In the United States alone, nearly 90 million homes would fall quiet. And across the globe, 1 billion tailwags would simply cease to exist. We take them for granted as they sleep at the foot of our beds or wait for us by the front door. But have you ever truly stopped to wonder how this happened? How did a creature that was once an apex predator, a cold-blooded killer of the Ice Age, transform into a fluffy companion that wears sweaters and sleeps on velvet cushions? As those first ghost wolves began to linger around human campfires, a biological miracle was taking place that changed the course of both our species forever. This wasn't just about sharing a bit of cooked meat. It was a fundamental rewiring of the canine brain. You see, modern science has discovered something truly haunting about the way dogs look at us. Have you ever noticed that puppy dog eyes look the way a dog raises its inner eyebrow to make its eyes look larger, sadar, and more human-like? It turns out that wolves don't actually have the muscle responsible for that movement. In the thousands of years since they joined our tribes, dogs evolved a specific new muscle in their faces solely to communicate emotion to humans. They literally evolved a way to manipulate our hearts. When you look into a dog's eyes, your brain releases oxytocin, the same love chemical that bonds a mother to her newborn baby. And here's the kicker: the dog's brain releases it too. We are the only two different species on the entire planet that share this specific chemical feedback loop. But as the Ice Age receded and the world began to warm, the human population started to spread across the globe. And they didn't go alone. They took their semi-domesticated companions with them. This is where the story of the billion dogs takes a fascinating turn. As humans settled into different environments, they needed dogs to do different jobs. In the frozen north, they needed powerful, thick-coated dogs to pull heavy sleds through the snow. In the vast grasslands of the Middle East, they needed lightning-fast sighthounds to chase down gazelles. This was the beginning of selective breeding. But it wasn't the organized kennel club style we know today. It was raw, functional evolution. If a dog was good at guarding the sheep from lions, it was kept and bred. If it was too small or too weak, it often didn't survive the harsh realities of ancient life. This created the Landrace dogs, the ancestors of our modern breeds, perfectly adapted to their specific corner of the world. By the time we reached the era of the great civilizations Egypt, Rome China dogs had become status symbols. In ancient Egypt, the Anubis-like hounds were so revered they were frequently mummified and buried in their own elaborate tombs, believed to guide their masters through the underworld. In Rome, they had the Molossus, a massive, terrifying war dog that wore spiked metal collars and charged into battle alongside the legions. These were the ancestors of the Mastiffs and Rottweilers we see today. Can you imagine the sight of 1,000 armored dogs charging across a battlefield? It was psychological warfare at its finest. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Chinese emperors were breeding the Pekingese to be so small they could fit inside the sleeves of a royal robe, acting as sleeve dogs that would leap out to surprise anyone who dared approach the emperor too closely. But let's talk about the numbers again, because this is where the mystery deepens. How did we go from a few types of working dogs to the 400 breeds we have today? Most of the breeds you recognize, the Golden Retriever, the German Shepherd, the Poodle, are actually incredibly young in the grand scheme of history. Most of them were reinvented in just the last 200 years, during the Victorian era. This was a period of intense obsession with purity and pedigree. Humans began to treat dog breeding like a hobby, focusing on aesthetic looks rather than just function. This is why we have the incredible diversity of size today. No other land mammal on Earth has as much physical variation within a single species as the dog. A Great Dane and a Chihuahua are the same species, yet one can be 100 times the weight of the other. If you saw two birds with that much difference, you'd assume they lived on different planets. This explosion of breeds led to a massive population boom. As the Industrial Revolution took hold and people moved into cities, the role of the dog shifted from worker to companion. This is when the pet industry truly began to skyrocket. But there is a dark side to this 15,000-word journey that we have to address. With the rise of designer breeds, we also saw the rise of genetic bottlenecks. Because we wanted dogs to look a certain way, squashed faces, specific colors, or curled tails, we started inbreeding them. Today, many of our most beloved breeds carry the weight of this history in the form of genetic diseases. A pug struggles to breathe because we decided a flat face looked cute. A German Shepherd's hips often fail because we bred for a sloped back. This is the suspenseful reality of our relationship with dogs. We have shaped them in our image, but at what cost to them? As we look at the 1.1 billion dogs alive in 2026, we see a world divided. In the West, billions of dollars are spent on gourmet dog food, orthopedic beds, and even doggy daycare. But in the developing world, the village dog still reigns supreme. These dogs are the true survivors. They haven't been touched by the purity obsession of the last 2 centuries. They are genetically diverse, incredibly smart, and have a social structure that mirrors our own. Scientists are now studying these village dogs to understand the original dogba, one that existed before we started playing God with our DNA. What they are finding is rewriting history books. They are discovering that these dogs have a level of problem-solving ability that puts many of our highly trained pets to shame. We will explore how a dog's nose can actually see time, how they can smell a disease before a doctor can diagnose it, and the incredible secret map they use to find their way home across hundreds of miles. We will also reveal the truth about the world's rarest dog, a creature so elusive that many thought it was a myth until a few years ago. While you are looking at your dog is actually smelling your history. To understand why there are a billion dogs on this planet, you have to understand the sheer biological superpowers that made them indispensable to us. We see the world in high-definition color, but to a dog, the world is a swirling, 3-dimensional map of scent. Imagine walking into a room and smelling a chocolate cake. You smell cake. Your dog, however, smells the flour, the 2 individual eggs, the specific brand of cocoa powder, the touch of vanilla, and even the microscopic skin cells of the person who baked it 3 hours ago. Their noses are so sensitive that they have up to 300 million olfactory receptors, compared to our measly 6 million. But it's not just about the number of receptors, it's about how they use them to see time itself. When you leave for work in the morning, your scent is strong in the house. As the day goes on, that scent slowly decays and weakens. Scientists believe that dogs can actually track the clock of your return by how much your scent has faded. They know you usually walk through the door when your scent has reached a specific level of weakness. It's a level of sensory perception that borders on the supernatural. This is why a dog might wait by the door 10 minutes before you even pull into the driveway. They aren't just hearing your car, they are smelling the schedule of the day. This sensory link is one of the primary reasons humans kept dogs around for tens of thousands of years. We didn't just want a friend. We wanted a biological radar system that could detect a predator or a stranger long before our human eyes ever could. Think about the wetness of a dog's nose. It's not just there for no reason. That layer of mucus on the rhinarium, the leather-like part of the nose axiax, is a trap for scent molecules, pulling them in so the dog can analyze them. They even have a special organ called the vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ, located in the roof of their mouth. This allows them to taste smells that are too heavy to be inhaled. It bypasses the regular smelling parts of the brain and goes straight to the parts that deal with emotion and instinct. This is how a dog knows if you are stressed, angry, or even sick before you've said a single word. In 2026, we are seeing more and more medical detection dogs that can sniff out certain types of cancer with a higher accuracy rate than some laboratory tests. They can smell the drop in blood sugar of a diabetic person, or the chemical shift that happens in the human body seconds before a seizure occurs. This isn't magic. It's 30,000 years of evolutionary fight. But let's talk about the world's most mysterious dog, the one that almost vanished from history. Deep in the misty, impenetrable highlands of New Guinea lives a creature known as the New Guinea singing dog. For over 50 years, scientists thought this living fossil was extinct in the wild, with only a few dozen left in zoos. They aren't like regular dogs. They don't bark. Instead, they produce a haunting, melodic howl that sounds like a cross between a whale song and a yodel. They are one of the rarest canines on Earth. A snapshot of what dogs looked like before they were fully shaped by human hands. In a stunning discovery, just a few years ago, a secret population was found living at extremely high altitudes, thousands of feet above sea level. This discovery proved that the wild version of our pets is still out there, hiding in the shadows of the world, surviving without us. As we track the billion dogs across the globe, we have to look at the incredible ways they have adapted to modern human environments. In Moscow, Russia, there is a famous population of stray dogs that has learned how to navigate the complex subway system. They aren't just wandering aimlessly. They have been observed boarding specific trains at specific times, riding them to the city center where food is more plentiful, and then riding the correct train back to the suburbs in the evening to sleep. They have developed a social hierarchy that involves scouts and leaders, and they have learned to use puppy dog eyes, specifically on commuters they perceive as being more likely to share their lunch. This is evolution happening in real time. These dogs aren't reverting to wolves. They are evolving into a new kind of urban predator that specializes in navigating human technology. The sheer variety of the canine world is what keeps our brains hooked on them. From the African wild dog, which has an 80% hunt success rate, the highest of any large predator on Earth, to the tiny Chihuahua that was once considered a sacred guide for the soul in Toltec culture. The dog is a mirror of human history. In South Africa, the Rhodesian Ridgeback was bred to hold lions at bay, using its incredible stamina and agility to dance around the king of the jungle until the hunters arrived. In the mountains of Tibet, the Tibetan Mastiff was bred to be so large and formidable that it could fight off snow leopards and bears to protect the livestock. These breeds didn't happen by accident. They were the result of a 1,000-year-old arms race, where humans and dogs work together to survive a hostile world. But what happens inside a dog's mind when they aren't working or hunting? Have you ever watched your dog's paws twitch while they sleep? Neuroscientists have used MRI machines to scan dog brains, and have found that they experience REM sleep, the stage of sleep where dreaming occurs. Their brainwave patterns are remarkably similar to ours. They likely dream about the things they did during the day, chasing a ball, running through the park, or perhaps even the scent of their favorite human. But there's a deeper mystery here. Dogs are one of the few animals that can follow a human's gaze or a pointing finger. If you point at an object, a wolf will look at your finger. A dog, however, will look at where you are pointing. This shows a level of theory of mind, the understanding that another being has thoughts and intentions that is incredibly rare in the animal kingdom. This cognitive link is the dopamine of our relationship. We feel understood by them. We feel like they get us. And in a world that is becoming increasingly digital and isolated, the dog population is growing precisely because they provide the one thing technology cannot: unconditional, non-judgmental presence. In the United States, the average dog owner spends over $1,200 a year on their pet, but the return on investment in terms of mental health is immeasurable. Studies show that pet owners have lower blood pressure, reduced risk of heart disease, and lower levels of depression. We aren't just keeping them alive, they are keeping us alive. As we move forward into the next chapter of this story, we are going to explore the forbidden breeds, the ones that have been banned in certain countries, and the controversial truth about aggression versus nurture. We will also look at the most expensive dog in history, a creature sold for nearly $2 million, and why someone would pay the price of a mansion for a single animal. We're also going to reveal the secret canine language of tails. Did you know that a tail wag to the right means something completely different than a tail wag to the left? But what if I told you that everything you think you know about a wagging tail is actually a lie? We've been taught since childhood that a wagging tail equals a happy dog. But that misunderstanding has led to more hospital visits than almost any other canine myth. The truth is far more clinical and, frankly, far more fascinating. In recent years, behavioral scientists using high-speed cameras have discovered that the direction of a dog's wag is a secret code. When a dog feels positive and relaxy, when they see their owner, the tail tends to wag more to the right side of their body. This is because the left hemisphere of the brain, which processes positive emotions, controls the right side of the body. Conversely, when a dog is looking at something threatening or a person they don't trust, the tail wags more to the left. The most incredible part: other dogs can actually read this. They will stay calm when they see a right-wagging dog, but will instantly become stressed and heart rate elevated if they see a left-wagging peer. It's a silent, high-speed conversation happening right under our noses, and we've been missing the subtitles for 30,000 years. This brings us to a darker chapter in the story of the 1 billion dogs on Earth. The forbidden breeds across the globe, from the United Kingdom to Australia to parts of the United States. Certain dogs have been deemed too dangerous to exist. We're talking about breeds like the American Pit Bull Terrier, the Japanese Tosa, Tafila Brasileiro, and the Dogo Argentino. But why? To understand the fear, we have to look at the history of human cruelty and specialized breeding. Many of these forbidden dogs weren't created to be pets. They were created to be biological machines of war or blood sports. The pit bull, for example, was bred from bulldogs and terriers to have gameness, a trait that prevents the dog from quitting a fight, even when it is severely injured. This high pain tolerance and intense focus made them legends in the dark world of dog fighting, but it also painted a target on their backs in modern society. In 2026, the debate over nature versus nurture has reached a fever pitch. Genetic studies from the Broad Institute have recently proven that breed only accounts for about 9% of an individual dog's behavior. The rest is environment, training, and individual personality. Yet, the stigma remains, and in some countries, simply owning one of these dogs can lead to a prison sentence. The suspense lies in the power these animals hold. Cane Corso, an ancient Roman catch dog, has a bite force of approximately 700 pounds per square inch, enough to crush bone as if it were a dry twig. When humans play with these living weapons, the results can be catastrophic. But the paradox is that these same breeds are often described by their owners as the most loyal Velcro dogs in existence. It raises a chilling question. Did we create a monster? Or did we just create a powerful partner that we no longer know how to lead? This tension is part of why the dog population is so heavily regulated in the modern world. In many cities, breed-specific legislation is the only thing standing between 1 billion dogs and a total ban on certain types of canine companions. And then, there is the world of the ultra-wealthy, where dogs aren't just companions or weapons, they are ultimate status symbols. In 2014, a record was set that still leaves animal historians breathless. A golden-haired Tibetan Mastiff puppy was sold in China for nearly $2 million. Why would a single dog cost the price of a private jet? In certain cultures, the Tibetan Mastiff is seen as more than an animal. It is believed to have lioness blood and to be a holy protector of the household. These dogs are massive, weighing up to 160 pounds, with a mane of thick fur that makes them look like a prehistoric beast. For a brief window in the mid-2010s, owning a big splash as the $2 million dog was named was the ultimate sign of power. However, the story took a tragic turn. As the Mastiff bubble burst, thousands of these once $1 million dogs were abandoned or sent to slaughterhouses when the trend shifted. It serves as a haunting reminder of what happens when humans treat a sentient, 30,000-year-old species as a disposable luxury item. But let's look back at the global scale. Of those 1 billion dogs, the working elite are perhaps the most impressive. While your pet might struggle to find a ball you threw in plain sight, a Belgian Malinois, Ferrari of the dog world, is currently being used by Tier 1 Special Forces units like the Navy SEALs to jump out of planes at 30,000 feet. These dogs wear specialized tactical vests, night vision cameras, and even tiny oxygen masks. They are trained to sniff out explosives with 99% accuracy and to take down a target with surgical precision. The Belgian Malinois is so intense that they often have to be taught how to relax. Their drive is so high that they would literally work themselves to death if their handlers did unstop them. This is the pinnacle of the human-canine partnership. We have taken the ghost wolf and turned it into a high-tech, living sensor that operates in environments where humans simply cannot survive. As we dive deeper into the biology of the billion, we encounter the mystery of canine intelligence. How smart are they, really? Most experts agree that the average dog has the mental capacity of a 2 to 3-year-old human child. They can learn up to 165 words, and some superdogs, like the famous border collie named Chaser, learn the names of over 1,000 individual toys. But intelligence in dogs isn't just about vocabulary, it's about social manipulation. Have you ever wondered why your dog always seems to know exactly when you're sad? They are monitoring the micro-expressions on your face and the chemical scent of cortisol in your sweat. They are the only animals that have been observed triangulating their gaze, looking at a human, then looking at a hidden treat, then looking back at the human to ask for help. This is a level of cognitive complexity that very few primates even possess. But there is a silent crisis happening in the canine world that we rarely talk about. As the dog population nears the 1.1 billion mark, they are having a massive impact on the environment. In some parts of the world, free-ranging dogs have become a threat to endangered wildlife. They compete with leopards for food, They spread diseases like rabies and canine distemper to wild wolf populations, and they have even been known to hunt in super packs that can take down large livestock. We have introduced 1 billion predators into the ecosystem, and we are only now starting to understand the ecological footprint of man's best friend. This is the suspenseful balance we must strike. How do we cherish the animal that saved our species without destroying the rest of the natural world in the process? The idea of death being the final goodbye is something humans have struggled with since the beginning of time. But for those with $50,000 and a deep sense of grief, the rules are starting to change. We are now entering the era of the carbon copy canine. In high-tech laboratories in South Korea and the United States, scientists are taking skin cells from deceased pets and using them to create genetic twins. This isn't science fiction. It is a booming industry in 2026. Famous celebrities and wealthy enthusiasts are paying a king's ransom to have their favorite dog reborn. But this raises a haunting, suspenseful question. Is it really the same dog? While the clone may look identical, down to the last spot on its fur, it lacks the soul, the memories, and the shared history of the original. It is a biological echo, a ghost made of flesh and bone. This drive to keep our dogs with us forever, even through artificial means, proves just how deeply this 1 billion strong population has embedded itself into our hearts. We are no longer just owners. We are obsessed guardians of a lineage we refuse to let go. To understand where this obsession comes from, we have to look at the incredible discovery made in the Siberian Pearl. In 2018, researchers found a perfectly preserved puppy that had been frozen for 18,000 years. They named him Dogger, which means friend in the local Yakut language. When scientists wiped away the mud and ice, they were shocked. Dogger still had his teeth, his eyelashes, his whiskers, and his velvet soft nose. But when they ran his DNA, the results were inconclusive. He wasn't quite a wolf, and he wasn't quite a dog. He was the missing link, a creature caught in the very middle of the transformation. This discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community because it suggested that the billion dogs we see today didn't just appear overnight. They were a slow-motion miracle of adaptation. Dogger represents the moment the wild became the domestic, the moment fear turned into friendship. This adaptation didn't just change their DNA, it changed their voices. Have you ever wondered why dogs bark so much, while wolves are almost entirely silent? In the wild, barking is a liability. It gives away your position to prey and rivals. But for the domestic dog, barking became a survival strategy. They realized that humans are vocal creatures. We talk, we shout, we sing. To fit into our world, dogs developed a complex vocabulary of barks that are specifically designed for human ears. Research has shown that humans, even those who do UN-tone dogs, can correctly identify the meaning of a bark just by its pitch and rhythm. We can tell the difference between a stranger at the door bark, a let's play bark, and a lonely bark. Dogs have literally hacked our auditory system to ensure we never ignore them. It is part of the dopamine loop that keeps the billion-strong population thriving. They speak, we react, and the bond is reinforced. But what if the bond was suddenly severed? This is the ultimate what-if scenario that keeps biologists awake at night. If humans were to disappear from the face of the earth tomorrow, what would happen to the billion dogs? The answer is both fascinating and tragic. For the first few weeks, the pampered dogs, the pugs, the French bulldogs, the chihuahuas would likely perish. They have been bred so far away from their wolf ancestors that they can no longer breathe, hunt, or even give birth without human intervention. They are the overspecialized victims of our own vanity. However, the story is very different for the village dogs and the working breeds. Within just a few generations, these dogs would likely revert to a pariah state. They would form packs. Their snouts would grow longer to help with hunting, and their ears would stand up to better track the sounds of the wild. They would become wolves. Again, wolves and dogs have been separate for too long, but they would become a new kind of apex predator. A neo-wolf that understands the ruins of human cities better than any other creature. The suspense of the dog's future lies in how they are continuing to change right now. In 2026, we are seeing the rise of cognitive evolution. Because dogs spend so much time watching us, they are learning tasks that were once thought impossible. There are dogs that can navigate touchscreens to get treats. Dogs that can use talking buttons to string together complex sentences like "want outside now," and dogs that can recognize hundreds of human facial expressions. We are essentially watching a second domestication event. We are moving from domesticating their bodies to domesticating their minds. This is why the global population continues to climb. As the world becomes more automated and robotic, we crave the one thing a machine can't provide: the head tilt. That famous head tilt isn't just cute. It is a calculated biological response. When a dog tilts its head while you speak, it is doing two things. First, it is adjusting its outer ears to pinpoint the exact location and emotional tone of your voice. Second, scientists believe it helps them see your mouth better, because many dogs have long snouts that block the lower half of their vision. Tilting the head allows them to see the micro-expressions of your lips and chin, the areas where humans convey the most emotion. This cuteness is a survival mechanism. It triggers a nurturing response in the human brain, ensuring that we keep feeding, protecting, and breeding them. The billion dogs on Earth aren't here by accident. They are here because they are the world's greatest masters of emotional intelligence. As we look toward the final chapters of this 15,000-word journey, we need to address the global canine census in detail. Where are the densest populations, and why? In the megacities of Asia and South America, the stray population is undergoing a massive shift. In Istanbul, Turkey, the city has embraced its street dogs, microchipping them and providing communal feeding stations. These dogs have become a part of the city's soul, proving that humans and free-ranging dogs can coexist in a high-tech society. Meanwhile, in the United States, the no-kill movement is reshaping how we handle the millions of dogs that end up in shelters every year. The narrative is shifting from pest control to animal rights, and this shift is what will drive the global dog population toward the 1.5 billion mark by the middle of the 21st century. But there is one secret left to uncover. It is the secret of the ancient DNA found in the Americas. For a long time, we thought dogs came to the Americas with the first humans across the Barren Land Bridge. But new evidence suggests there was a ghost lineage of American dogs that existed long before we thought. These dogs were so central to the lives of the indigenous people that they were often given elaborate burials with jewelry and food for the afterlife. When the Europeans arrived, these ancient American dogs were almost entirely wiped out by diseases brought from the Old World. Today, only a tiny fraction of their DNA remains in modern American breeds. This lost history is a reminder of how fragile this bond can be, and how much we still have to learn about the animals sleeping at our feet. To truly understand the mathematics of the pack, we have to dismantle one of the most persistent and damaging lies in the history of animal science: the alpha myth. For over half a century, dog owners have been told they need to be the pack leader or the alpha. This philosophy, which has dictated the training and lives of millions of dogs, was born from a 1940s study of wolves in captivity. Because those wolves were unrelated strangers forced together in a cramped enclosure, they fought for dominance, creating a brutal hierarchy. But when the lead researcher of that study, David Meck, went into the wild years later, he made a staggering realization. He was wrong. In nature, a wolf pack is not a group of rivals fighting for a throne. It is simply a family. There are no alphas, only parents and their children. By applying prison yard logic to our dogs for decades, we have often misunderstood the very heart of their social structure. Dogs don't want to dominate you. They want to belong to you. This is the secret reason why the dog population has been able to explode to over 1 billion. Unlike wolves, who are wary of outsiders, dogs possess a genetic mutation similar to Williams-Burns syndrome in humans that makes them pathologically friendly. They are literally genetically wired to seek out companionship. This biological friendliness is what allowed the billion dogs to fill every niche on the planet, including some of the most bizarre environments imaginable. Think about the Norwegian loonhound. This is a dog that looks relatively normal at first glance, but it is a biological freak of nature. Bred to hunt puffins on the sheer, slippery cliffs of Norway, the loonhound has 6 toes on each foot for extreme grip. Its neck is so flexible that it can bend its head backward until its forehead touches its spine, and its shoulder joints are so mobile that it can stretch its front legs out sideways. Like a human, this is a dog that can literally climb like a cat. Then you have the Basenge, the barkless dog of Africa. Because they were used for silent hunting in dense jungles, they developed the larynx shaped differently than any other canine. They don't bark. They produce a sound known as a baru, a haunting yodel that echoes through the trees. These specialized breeds are the outliers of the billion, proving that whenever humans had a specific problem, the dog's DNA provided a specific solution. But as we look at the health of this massive global population, a suspenseful pattern emerges. If you want a dog that will live the longest, you have to look away from the purebred champions and toward the mutts. The average lifespan of a giant breed like a Great Dane is a tragic 6 to 8 years. They are the flames that burn twice as bright, but half as long. Their hearts simply cannot keep up with their massive bodies. Meanwhile, the world record for the oldest dog was recently held by Bobby, a Rafaru do Alentejo from Portugal, who lived to be over 31 years old. What was his secret? He was a village dog at heart, living a free-range life, eating human food without seasonings, and never being kept on a leash. The mathematics of the pack shows us that when we stop overbreeding for looks and let nature take the lead, dogs become sturdier, smarter, and more resilient. This is why the billion-strong population is dominated by the scavenger types. They have a hybrid viga that allows them to survive the harshest conditions on Earth. In 2026, the human-canine partnership has evolved into something even more profound. The dog as an environmental savior. As we face global crises, we are turning to the super sensors to help us protect the planet. There are now conservation dogs trained to detect the scent of invasive species or endangered animals from miles away. In the Pacific Northwest, dogs ride on the bows of boats, sniffing the air to find the scat of southern resident killer whales. This allows scientists to study the whales' health without ever disturbing them. In Africa, anti-poaching dogs are the only thing standing between the last rhinos and extinction. These dogs can track a human footprint that is 48 hours old through the bush, leading rangers to poachers before a single shot is fired. This is the dopamine effect of the canine story. The very animal we once feared as a predator has become the primary guardian of the world's most vulnerable wildlife. But who is the king of dogs? If we were to rank the billion by sheer capability, the title would likely go to the Border Collie. These are the prodigies of the canine world. A Border Collie doesn't just herd sheep. It uses a psychological tool called the eye. By crouching low and staring intensely at the livestock, the dog exerts a silent, hypnotic pressure that moves hundreds of animals with the flick of a tail. Their brains are so fast that they often get bored in normal households, leading to destructive behavior. They are the only dogs known to possess fast mapping, the ability to learn the name of a new object after hearing it only once. This level of intelligence is the peak of our 30,000-year experiment. We have created a creature that can think, solve problems, and communicate across the species barrier in a way that no other animal can. The suspense of our journey now brings us to the global canine census of the future. As human populations shift toward megacities, the dog is shifting too. We are seeing a new type of dog emerge, the micro-companion. As living spaces shrink, the demand for tiny high-intelligence dogs is skyrocketing. But this comes with a warning. In our quest for the perfect pet, we are creating designer dogs like the Labradoodle and the Maltipoo. While these dogs are beloved, they represent a moment where we are prioritizing our own desires over the biological integrity of the animal. The true story of the billion dogs is the story of a balance. On one hand, we have the ghost wolf that still lives inside every golden retriever, the hunter, the protector, the wild spirit. On the other hand, we have the modern dog, the therapist, the friend, the digital companion. If you look at the 1.1 billion dogs in the world today, you aren't just looking at animals, you are looking at a mirror of ourselves. They are everywhere because we are everywhere. They survived the Ice Age with us. They built the first farms with us. They went to war with us. And now, they are navigating the digital age with us. Every time you pet a dog and feel that rush of dopamine, you are participating in an ancient ritual that saved our species from loneliness and extinction. We didn't just domesticate them. They domesticated us. They taught us how to be more observant, how to be more loyal, and how to find joy in the simplest things: a sunbeam on the floor, a walk in the woods, or the return of a friend. As we reach the conclusion of this epic history, the final number remains 1 billion. 1 billion lives intertwined with ours. From the singing dogs of New Guinea to the subway-riding dogs of Moscow, the canine world is a vast, complex, and beautiful tapestry. They are the only creatures on Earth that have seen every part of our history and chose to stay. So, the next time you look into those puppy dog eyes, remember that you aren't just looking at a pet. You are looking at 30,000 years of survival, a biological miracle, and the greatest partner the human race will ever have. The story of the dog is far from over. In fact, as we begin to unlock the secrets of their DNA and their minds, we might find that the most incredible chapters are still yet to be written.